The main focus of this next part is our day trip to the quiet fishing village of Howth. But on our way to the train station, we walked through a nice, quaint little park and had to stop and take in the sights. Plus, I think Brooke really wanted to try and pet a goose. After we were done getting sidetracked, we made it across Dublin to the train station and took the approximately half-an-hour trip to Howth. But, for the sake of this vlog, I won't make you wait that long.
This train is full.
Something about this town just seemed like it fit us. And aside from that, it was just also full of beautiful views everywhere we looked. After a brief walk around the town, we stopped into an adorable old building that had been converted into a restaurant and bar, which also happened to be the least seafood-focused place to eat in town, and had some authentic Irish coffee and some lunch. They had a modified shepherd's pie made with Guinness, and oh man, it made me never want to leave. After lunch, we continued exploring the town, which definitely had a unique style we hadn't seen anywhere else in Ireland so far, as well as a pretty great sense of humor about itself. When we reached the end of the pier, there was an old man offering to take us on a boat ride around a nearby island called Ireland's Eye, and after we decided he wasn't trying to scam or kill us, we agreed to get on his cool little fishing boat with a few other tourists that came to the same conclusion, and we were very glad we made that decision, because it was the kind of unique experience we would have hated to miss.
As I walked by the dockside one evening so fair, to view the salt waters and take the salt air, I heard an old fisherman singing a song. Oh, take me away, boys, me time is not long. Wrap me up in me oilskin and the jumper, no more on the dockside be seen. Just tell me, old shipmates, I'm taking a trip, mates, and I'll see you someday on Fiddler's Green. Now Fiddler's Green is a place I've heard tell, where the fishermen go if they don't go to hell. When the skies are all clear and the dolphin do play, and the cold coast of Greenland is far, far away. Wrap me up in me oilskins and jumper, no more on the dockside be seen. Just tell me, old shipmates, I'm taking a trip, mates, and I'll see you someday on Fiddler's Green, where the skies are all clear and there's never a gale, and the fish jump on board with one swish on their tail, where you lie at your leisure, there's no worry to do, and the skippers below making tea for the crew. Wrap me up in me oilskins and jumper, no more on the dockside be seen. Just tell me, old shipmates, I'm taking a trip, mates, and I'll see you someday on Fiddler's Green.
While the boat ride was very cold, we were still sad when it came to an end, but nevertheless made our way to the next famous Howth landmark, an old castle that the owners, who still live there, had turned into a tourist resort. The oldest part of the castle was vacant, and clearly had seen better days, but mostly just served as a photo opportunity and an occasional museum these days. We wandered a little off the beaten path, though, after Brooke spied a mysterious dilapidated structure in the woods nearby, and it ended up being possibly the most beautiful part. It reminded me of something out of the Chronicles of Narnia, or really any fantasy book turned movie you could imagine being set here. We didn't want to overstay our welcome, though, since we weren't sure if we were actually allowed there, and wandered back toward the actual lived-in part of the castle, which was admittedly less of a spectacle. And after a quick peek around the rest of the grounds, it was time for our brief stay in Howth to come to an end. Early the next morning, we checked out of our hotel in Dublin and took a taxi to the bus station for a 2-hour ride to Belfast, which was the next city we'd be staying at in Ireland. By this point of the trip, Brooke and I were both fighting off illness, and my energy level was very low. But luckily, Brooke apparently had the vlog's best interests in mind still. Belfast was a more modern city, with a bigger focus on college life and the arts, and is also coincidentally where the Game of Thrones cast members live when the filming is happening. Our hotel was fairly close to theirs, but it was also a little bit scary to walk through. The room was cool though, and had a comfy feel to it, so it was okay. We quickly dropped off our bags and made our way to Boojum's for lunch, which is another place the Game of Thrones cast members have been known to show up at. And while we didn't see any, we did have a very delicious meal. For those that don't know, Boojum's is basically just the best Chipotle you could ever eat, and another place I wish we had in America. After lunch, we grabbed tickets for the hop-on, hop-off tour bus around Belfast because we had limited time and wanted to see as much of the city as possible, and this was a very educational way to do it.
Stop in the very heart of the University Quarter of Belfast. Right in the very heart of the University Quarter, believe it or not, is exactly where you're going to find our university. It's called Queen's University of Belfast, or QUB for short, and it's based inside the beautiful Lanyon building that you'll see coming up very shortly on the left-hand side.
We eventually made it past the more residential areas and ended up in the historical district, which was full of structures symbolizing peace, such as this giant ball named Rise, which was erected to celebrate a new sun rising over Belfast after their religious persecution ended. And then on to some of the wall art that chronicled a lot of these troubles they'd had in the past, which was actually really interesting to learn about, and I recommend you do the same. This is a Honeymoon vlog, not a documentary. We also passed some unexpected sights.
There it is on the right just now, folks. The very clever little Asian noodle bar there, the Titanic. And from what I'm told, their food goes down surprisingly well.
Aside from Game of Thrones, Belfast is also famous for being where the Titanic was built, and there was a huge section of the city dedicated to the shipyards and their legacy.
Now folks, the Titanic Experience building there off to your left-hand side. Huge big place. First opened back in 2012 to coincide with the centenary commemorations of the 1912 Titanic disaster.
This area is also where the Game of Thrones studio is, but since they were building a new set, we couldn't get a good view of anything except the branded restaurant on the studio lot. It was dark when the bus tour ended, so we decided to just explore the downtown area, since it was nicely lit for the holidays, and there were a lot of really cool decorations all over the city. It was also full of religious symbolism, wall paintings of Liam Neeson, and what has to be the world's fanciest Tesco. For dinner, we stopped into a quaint local pub that the tour guide had recommended for their special beef stew, which really hit the spot after wandering around in the cold, and then dropped into another hole-in-the-wall pub next to our hotel for the cheapest Guinness in the city. It had a really cool aesthetic, so we made ourselves comfortable in there for a while, watching some of the locals try to hit on the one other woman in the bar, before we headed back to our hotel room and got settled in for the night, where we learned that there are some really weird channels on European television. Who's Dave, and why does he have his own channels? Though, I gotta give him props. Solid pun, Dave. Solid pun. But, speaking of TV, our main reason for coming to Belfast was just a night's rest away, and we were more than ready for it.